I've retired, sold my building, my studio, and I've made sure that TIFF took possession of whatever was left over in the studio, and it's over 20,000 items. And this is a very small bit of that representing the two X-Men movies. And the fact that they wanted to exhibit it to this degree, with this amount of effort and budget and time, is spectacular. It's very heartwarming. It's like for an old bugger at the end of his career to have something like this made public. That's very cool. I mean, I have my own accolades that happen inside my industry, inside with my colleagues, but to have this recognized in a public sort of a format is very, very exciting. And the mere fact that they're even interested that's very, very cool. Not very many people get that luxury.
In regards to creating something like Mystique or Sabretooth, how much work would go into creating, that's a lot of work, it looks like to me. So
that's
how long would
and
you?
Months.
Yeah.
That's, there's probably 4 months of work and to create that character. And then we have to create multiples of it and stuff like that. A lot of testing, a lot of shouldn't have done that. Before we get to film a character like Sabretooth, much less. It's probably a month's work, tops. But everything takes serious time, and there's nothing straightforward because we're always pushing the envelope. None of these, like the prosthetic that he's wearing, was the first time we'd ever built prosthetics like that in that format. I think it was the first time we ever punched hair directly into the prosthetic on that X-Men one. I mean, normally that we weren't able to do that. So everything in my studio was research and development, and we never did the same thing twice. We're always pushing the envelope. Last time we were able to get it this far, so this time we know we'll push it a little bit farther, and I surrounded myself with some of the very best fine artists I could find anywhere in the world, and their mandate was pretty much the same. A fine artist's mandate is to push the envelope, see how good you can do something, not how bad you can do it or how much you can copy somebody else. None of us ever had any interest in copying or doing something the same as somebody else did. What was the point? Hire them. You don't need us. Hire them.
Well, that kind of leads into my next question. Is it more difficult working off of a comic character that people have an image in their head, or is it more difficult just creating something from scratch?
I'm generally asked to duplicate something that already exists, like an actor, like you.
Okay.
I have to duplicate you, and/or I have to dismember you, and/or I have to do, and all these things are hyper-realist things that we as human beings recognize real, not real, instantaneously. You can walk into a room and if some guy's lying on the floor, you know from the other side of the room whether he's dead or still alive. Your animal knows that. Well, in film, it's the same thing. You know whether it's real or whether it's phony. And the very best I can do is 50% of reality, because it's not real. So everything we have to do has to be as perfect, artistically, and as humanly possible, all the way down to cell structure. If I was duplicating you, I'd lift your cell structure right off of you and put it right onto the sculpt, instead of making up a new cell structure. Because light, even though all the structure of you is exactly the same, light will not photograph you the same. Things like that. So pictures like this, where there's no comparison. I don't need to worry about the real Mystique coming in and standing beside the phony Mystique, or the real Wolverine coming in and standing. I don't need to do any of that. So I have tremendous amount of license. So in the end of the day, it was actually one of the easier jobs we kind of ever did. When Sylvia talks about we did these X-Men and then we got real. Well, this is the last movie I ever did. So it's not like we got real important after that in reality. This is like one of the last movies we did.
And what has been your hardest creation?
Period?
Out of your entire career,
well, they were all hard. They were all hard, but the one that was probably the most rewarding was JFK, and duplicating that assassination and his body on the autopsy table. Because everybody knew that.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't anybody in the world, certainly in my generation, that doesn't know every single detail of it. Every conspiracy theory, every, oh, it was like this in part, everybody knew. Everybody had an opinion. So it had to be perfect. Had to be perfect. And we knew it was perfect when we delivered the goods to New Orleans, and the coroner from New Orleans came in and squeezed the thing's toe and wanted to know what the hell was going on.
And you have a background in acting.
Yeah.
How did that help over the years getting actors to trust you, I guess? Or did it?
Well, I think you kind of answered it right there.
Right.
Because I'm an actor, and all the work I did dealt with either anatomy or assisting the actor in a performance that involved something that wasn't real, like blow their limbs off or their head off or something like that, or turn them into an alien or whatever. My job was to, I mean, if I wouldn't do it personally, I wouldn't build it for them either.
Okay.
That was kind of my criteria. And I think I'm one of the few people in the industry that come at it from that point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are makeup artists or rock and rollers that want to make creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And when asked me, would you like for the creature? I've never built a creature. This is as close to creatures as I've ever built.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a job building a creature. I've always been asked to duplicate reality.